All right, let's dive right into this explainer. If you're gearing up for your MEO Class 2 exam, or honestly, even if you're just about to step onto a vessel as a marine engineer officer, what we're looking at today is your ultimate, highly structured blueprint. We're talking about MARPOL 73/78. And listen, mastering this isn't just about passing a grueling oral exam. It is the absolute fundamental baseline for keeping your ship out of detention and, actually protecting the global marine environment.
Here's our game plan for today. We're going to hit the catalyst, decode the 6 annexes, track the paper trail, look through the inspector's lens, and finally, put you in the hot seat.
Section 1. The catalyst. Why MARPOL actually exists.
It's a grim reality, but international maritime law is almost always written in the wake of disaster. If you look back before 1954, there were basically no uniform international standards. We had OilPol, but honestly, its standards were pretty flawed and limited. The real trigger event, that happened in 1967 with the Torrey Canyon disaster. This was a massive oil spill that completely devastated coastlines. It acted as the undeniable environmental catalyst that forced global shipping to change, which led directly to the adoption of the core MARPOL framework in 1973. And eventually we got the 1978 protocol, which finally added the actual enforcement mechanisms that we operate under today.
So MARPOL stands for the International Convention for the Prevention of Pollution from Ships. But look, as a future chief engineer or an MEO Class 2 candidate, you can't just memorize this definition. You have to completely internalize it. It dictates how you handle absolutely everything on board, from your engine room bilges all the way up to your exhaust stack.
Moving on to Section 2, decoding the 6 annexes, the core regulatory framework.
Okay, consider this matrix your ultimate cheat sheet. MARPOL is divided into 6 rigid categories, or annexes, and you need to rhythmically lock each number to its specific pollution type. Ready? Annex I is oil. Annex II is noxious liquid substances. Annex III is harmful substances in packaged form. Annex IV is sewage. Annex V is garbage. And Annex VI is air pollution. Notice how the key shipboard equipment is paired right here alongside them, like the oily water separator for Annex I, along with mandatory certificates like the IOPP and ISP. Getting this matrix down cold is the absolute foundation of your maritime career.
Let's zoom in on Annex I for a second and track the actual mechanical story of a single drop of oil. Step 1. It starts down in the machinery space bilges. Step 2. It gets pumped over to the bilge holding tank. Step 3. It's processed through the OWS, the oily water separator. Step 4. It passes through the 15 ppm monitor. And finally, Step 5. Based exactly on that reading, it's either legally discharged overboard or redirected to the sludge tank. Understanding this mechanical flow step by step is completely non-negotiable for any engineering officer.
And that brings us to the magic number, 15 ppm. 15 parts per million. I want you to literally burn this specific metric into your mind right now. Under Annex I, this is the absolute legal threshold for the oil content meter during an overboard discharge. If you exceed this number, you are actively polluting the ocean. It's a guaranteed exam topic and the absolute backbone of your engine room's environmental compliance.
All right, shifting gears over to Annex V, garbage segregation. We've got food waste, domestic waste, cooking oil, cargo residues, operational waste, and fishing gear. But I want you to focus on that very first item right there, plastics. Throwing even a single plastic item overboard is a strict zero-tolerance violation. As an engineering officer, you have got to ensure this segregation is happening in reality, not just checking boxes on paper, because I promise you, port state control inspectors will check your garbage management plan against what's actually sitting in your ship's bins.
Now heads up, because this right here is a classic MEO Class 2 exam trap. The discharge rules you use in standard international waters, say out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, are completely different from the hyper-strict requirements inside a MARPOL special area or an emission control area. You must know your geographical boundaries and the exact discharge criteria for every single zone your ship sails into.
Section 3. The paper trail. If it isn't recorded, it didn't happen. Listen closely to this one. In the eyes of maritime law, a missing signature is treated literally like a physical oil spill. You are responsible for these critical records: the oil record book, parts I and II, the cargo record book, the garbage record book, bunker delivery notes, and the fuel oil changeover log. Let me speak directly to you as a future chief engineer for a second. Falsifying an entry here or using a magic pipe to bypass the OWS and trying to cover it up instantly ends your maritime career. I mean, it leads straight to prison. Your paper trail must perfectly match your physical operations every single time.
Part 4. The Inspector's Lens. Port State Control. Let's raise the stakes a bit and view MARPOL through the eyes of a Port State Control inspector walking up your gangway. What exactly is going to trigger an immediate red flag and get your ship detained? Well, a defective oily water separator for starters, crew unfamiliarity with the SOP, which is the Shipboard Oil Pollution Emergency Plan, falsified record books, improper garbage segregation, or missing and expired certificates. We aren't just talking about abstract rules anymore. We are turning them into real-world career survival right here.
And finally, Section 5, the hot seat, MEO Class II Examination Simulation.
Okay, time to put you in the hot seat to actively test your retention of this explainer. Here's your first oral exam question. What are the pollution categories under MARPOL Annex II, which covers noxious liquid substances? Take a quick beat to think about it. Got it? The exact model answer the examiner is looking for is Category X, Category Y, Category Z, and other substances, or OS. And remember, Category X is the absolute most hazardous, which means it requires the strictest discharge controls. All right, next question. What is the primary purpose of MARPOL Annex VI? Picture the modern shipping landscape right now and what you see coming out of the funnel. The answer is the control of air pollutants, specifically sulfur oxides, or SOx, and nitrogen oxides, or NOx. But it doesn't stop there. You absolutely have to mention the modern push for energy efficiency, which brings in indices like the EEDI and the CII. Annex VI is all about protecting the atmosphere and mitigating greenhouse gases.
Let's hit a highly practical operational question. What actually happens if the 15 ppm oil content meter just completely fails during an overboard discharge operation? Imagine you're standing down there in the engine room right now. What's the protocol? Well, the correct answer is that the system is specifically designed to fail safe. An automatic three-way valve will instantly actuate, completely stopping the overboard discharge and recirculating that effluent right back to the bilge holding tank. And you must never, ever bypass that safety feature. So, after running through all these regulations, the timelines, the specific parts per million limits, and the absolute zero tolerance for record-keeping errors, the real question is, are you ready to shoulder the responsibility of protecting the oceans and, quite frankly, your crew's liberty? Mastering the information in this explainer isn't just a hurdle to pass your MEO Class II exam. It's about the massive global responsibility that rests directly on a chief engineer's shoulders every single time those main engines start up. Dive back into these slides, master those annexes inside and out, and I'll catch you next time.